Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another pep talk or performance enhancing podcast, as we like to call them. Elon Ferdman here. We're about to delve into part 2 of my interview with Craig Ballantyne, the owner of Early to Rise and the author of the Perfect Day Formula. Hopefully you managed to catch part 1. In this part, if you didn't catch part 1, I kind of ended on a cliffhanger, and the cliffhanger was how I deal in my life with putting restraints on certain things that I love. So we'll kick it off with that. We talk a little bit about the effects of your environment or network and how that affects you, and also what you can do and how you can plan for it so that it doesn't have the negative effects on you. The power of the unconscious mind, a really cool little hyperbole, metaphor. I don't know, one of those stories that Craig shares with us. Craig also shares his insane story, which brought him to the lowest point, all around anxiety, hospitalization. Absolutely incredible story. Then we talk about learnable skill sets, how to learn them, what that means from a neuroscience perspective. And finally, George Costanza from Seinfeld makes an appearance in this episode as well, so you'll have to listen to that. And before we get into the episode, just wanted to let you guys know that we are officially starting to sell tickets for our upcoming event in San Diego, November 3rd through the 5th. Tickets are actually free. The event itself is free. I know that sounds crazy. It's free. It was originally marketed for $1,000. We scratched that. We're going with the free model. All you have to do is pay a $297 save your seat fee. You get that back after the event. Or if you want to save a seat for 2 people, it's $500. And again, you will get that back, all of it, in fact, back. So if you want to find out details about that, just head over to youwillhaveitall.com/live, and you can get all the details there. Or if you have any questions about it, you can always email me directly. It's elon@SatoriPrime.com. Enjoy, everyone. I have a really, really big sweet tooth. In fact, as a child growing up, the only thing, I grew up in Israel, the only thing I would eat were chocolate sandwiches. Like 2 pieces of bread with like chocolate spread. That's the only thing that my parents could get me to eat. And I was a very skinny kid, so it wasn't like I had issues with being fat or anything. But as I got older and fitness kind of became more important to me, I was like, this can't be good. And I would, no joke, Craig, like I could sit after dinner, like the big tubs of ice cream, not the little guys, the big tubs of ice cream. I could put down like half of them in a sitting, and I could probably do the whole, but I was like, oh, that's kind of gross, and I would stop. And this was back when I was like in college. This is not when I'm, 12. So I was like, this can't be good. But I have such a sweet tooth to the point where after every meal, I had to like eat something sweet. And it just got out of control because it's like you eat a big meal, even if I'm eating that healthy, I'm going in like just gnawing on whatever. And my friend actually asked me this yesterday because she also has a sweet tooth. She's skinny and like really good fitness, but she's getting older. She's like, I ate 3 Snicker bars a day. I'm like, are you fucking out of your mind? Like, how would you do that? Yeah. Wow. So what I do for me is I allow myself to have a bite of something sweet at the end of not every meal. Like it depends. Some meals I just don't want it, but if I want it, like at the end of every meal, I allow myself to have a bite of something sweet. And I know it's not great. And I know like from a caloric standpoint, it's not great, whatever. But I just know that for me, what happens is if I don't have it right then and there, like at the end of the meal, like that one sweet thing, an hour from now, that sweet tooth thing just goes bonkers. And I know I'm going to have like 4 times what I should be. So like I'll buy little, like as healthy as snacks as I can, but I literally will allow myself like one thing, like one small piece of candy or one of my, I love Nutella, like love Nutella. So one thing that I do is I'll take like a teaspoon of Nutella and I have almond butter, and I'll literally like take 1 teaspoon of Nutella, 1 teaspoon of almond butter. I'll mix it all together. I'll eat it. And it's like, gives me my little sweet thing, and I'm done. But that way I find that I don't have these insane cravings.
Sure.
And I told this to my buddy, because when you restrict everything so much, when you have it, you're like, and you're binging, which is so much worse than just giving yourself that little bit and just knowing like, that's it. Yesterday, I did the same thing with wine, because after this weekend in Toronto, I was like, man, I don't want to drink. But I had it was my birthday dinner, and I'm sitting there, and I was so proud, because at the end of it, I literally had maybe combined over like a 4-hour dinner, a glass and a half of wine. And all my friends come with like each person's like 2 bottles of wine and all these beers. And I was like, wow, I can't believe I just made it through that dinner by having 1 and like a half glass of wine. So that's the way I kind of deal with it. That, and I also, on weekends, like you said, I'll eat super healthy for my 5 days. And then on the weekends, I kind of like let myself do mostly whatever within reason.
Right.
And then, that works for me. It doesn't work for everybody, but that's my jam.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to ask you 2 things. One, if you can share, do you remember the story about the guy that goes to the village, sees the fisherman with the crab?
Yeah. I can tell that one.
Where did you get that story, or where did you hear that story?
I've heard it before, but my really good friend and business partner, Bedros Keuilian, talks about it a lot, just because he uses that example. He teaches personal trainers how to grow their businesses. And as a personal trainer, most people are coming from, not a business family. And so when they share these types of stories with people, everyone wants to pull you back down. So he uses it a lot, but I've heard it many, many times. And so I include it.
Super brilliant. Can you just say the story real quick? Because I really want to talk about the unconscious mind with you a little bit.
Sure. So, the gist of it is, you're going up, you're in Alaska, you're walking around, you're being a tourist, you're in this little town, and you see this guy on the dock, and he's, somehow throwing a net in, getting some crabs, and he bring out the crab and he put it in a bucket. But there's no lid on the bucket. And you're like thinking, okay, he's got like 3 or 4 crabs in there, and they're going to escape. And so you look in the bucket, and sure enough, one of them is on the way up, and it's about to crawl out. And then all of a sudden, you say to the guy, hey, buddy, your crabs are getting away, which isn't something you say to people very often. And then he goes, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. The crab, the other crabs won't let him. And so you look back in, and the other crabs start pulling them back down. Now, I don't know if this actually happens, but let's say it does. Let's say that for some reason, crabs actually pull the other crab back down. And so that's what happens in the real world. If you're succeeding, someone else is going to pull you back down. It's either Australia or Britain, they have a phrase called tall poppy syndrome.
Yep.
So as the more successful you get, people try and chop your legs out from underneath you. And then this guy, Dan Kennedy, he says, the higher up the flagpole you go, the more your butt sticks out for people to take shots at you. So that's generally what it's all about. That, if you are a success-oriented person, you're going to have to prepare and plan for what's going to happen when people are negative towards you, when people try and sabotage you, and when your own brain, which I think you're going to mention, sabotages you as well.
Yeah. So I read it, and I got like the face value of it thing, but coming from personal development training and things like that, I thought it was such a brilliant analogy for the power of the unconscious mind and all of these kind of stories that basically we've been trained to believe, or strongly held beliefs, that as we're starting to excel, it's like, oh, no, it can't be that good. Like something bad's bound to happen. And all of these little things that stop us. And I was curious if for you, I like the fact that you said the story this way, but for you, with the unconscious mind, in goal setting and creating this life, what do you see as debilitating factors for people when they're on a path of creating powerful goals and doing all these things that this, the crabs in our brain, quote unquote, are pulling us back?
I see this all the time. You see people get really successful and then they just blow everything because they don't feel that they're worthy of it.
Yep.
It could be their past family relationship with money. I mean, I grew up on a, relatively poor on a farm in Canada. We didn't have money. People that did have money were either lucky or, there was some negative thing said about them. Selling was not something that was looked on positively. And so I had to overcome all of those things, just like I think most of my friends have had to overcome those things. The friends that you and I have in common, none of those guys came from a sales background or wealthy family. And so that is very common that, people raise themselves up and then they cut their own legs out from underneath them. And so it really is just making sure that you're objectively looking at your life and figuring out, okay, why am I getting into these situations? You really have to identify the patterns in your life and then figure out, could be the people that you're hanging around with for sure, because I really believe in the old saying that you're the average of the 5 people you spend your time with. So, and there's actually Harvard research that shows if you hang around smokers, you're going to become a smoker. If you hang around obese people, you have a much greater chance of being overweight. And it's just because you pick up everybody else's habits. So if you make some money and then the next thing you know, you're hanging around all these people that spend 20 grand in a weekend in Vegas, you're going to be spending maybe not 20 grand, but you're going to be spending 10 grand. You can only do that for so long before it catches up to you and you make a foolish mistake. So it really is then looking at, those 5 pillars. Am I planning right? Am I getting the right coaching? Who is my social support? Am I letting it become negative? And what am I really doing this for? And then you can get back on track.
Yeah, I think this is really where the coaching comes in. It's very difficult for us to see our true selves. It's much easier for those around us, especially when it's a coach who their responsibility is to see your patterns and see when you're kind of falling into those patterns. And I think as you expand in life and people that are high performers, when you get into an uncomfortable situation, what comes out is not your elevated higher self. It's just that knee-jerk reaction, small time thinking person. And that's where I think a coach really keeps you kind of on that trajectory and shows you, oh, you're just being this small thing. You used to do this when we spoke about this, this, and this. And it kind of snaps you out of it. It's almost like, like knocking the crabs out. I don't know if you ever cooked crabs, but they do really grab onto each other. And so you have to grab one and kind of beat the others off as you're pulling them out. So as I read it, I was like, wow, that's such a good analogy. As you're going through this process in your life, was there just a moment, whether when you were building your business or on this journey of your life, let's just keep it very open, that you could say was the lowest moment of your life, which
absolutely.
You absolutely came out of it. So I'm curious, what was that lowest moment of your life? How long did it take you to realize how to get out, and kind of what the lesson of that life was?
Right. And so it goes back to 2006 again. So that was the year I hired my business coach, but it was a really pivotal year for me as well, because hiring a business coach allowed me to stop being a personal trainer full time. But before that happened, I actually struggled with, really, really bad anxiety. I call it crippling anxiety, and that's not hyperbole at all. I mean, it was really, really bad. It was so bad I had to go to the hospital a couple of times. It wasn't just oh, I'm kind of stressed out today. It was full on, I think I'm having a heart attack here, because I had tingles from the top of my head down to the end of my fingertips. My chest was tight. My heart was pounding all day long. This went on for 6 weeks straight, from about March of 2006 till the end of May. And, I was getting on these coaching calls with my coach, Tom, and I was sitting there thinking, don't freak out, don't freak out, don't freak out, because that's the best way to describe anxiety. It's not like I can say, hey, look, I broke my arm. You know what it's like because you've broken, X, Y, Z. No, it's I'm going crazy up here and I can't explain it to you. I look totally normal, but I don't feel normal. And so that's what I was going through. And then the worst, when it really hit its kind of pinnacle, was when one day, it was a sunny Monday morning in May, actually. So it was several weeks after I've been going through this. I'm training a client in the gym because I'm still doing a bit of personal training on the side as I build the online business. And, this guy's 5'3", he's 300 pounds, he's an overweight, stressed out lawyer. And I look at him and he just did a set of dumbbell presses. And I go, Richard, I need you to take me to the hospital. And he goes, what are you talking about? Because again, you don't look like there's anything wrong with you. And so he did. He gave me a ride to the emergency room. I walked in. I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. They took me to the back. They gave me chest x-rays. They gave me a heart rate monitor, told me to come back, drop it off. And if anything was wrong with me, they would contact me. And then a little bit of time went by and, I didn't hear from them. And at the same time, I was studying all these things to get out of the anxiety issues. And I bought this book called Panic Away. It was kind of ironic because I bought it off ClickBank and my business coach was helping me sell on ClickBank. So it worked out nice. But I bought it. Chapter 2, there was 5 words that essentially cured me. It lifted the last bit of stress off my shoulders. And all it said was, there's nothing wrong with you. And I thought about it. I thought, I've been to the hospital. I'm doing this. I know this about myself. There really is nothing wrong with me. That lifted the last bit of stress off my shoulders. And I also said to myself, I'm way too busy for this. I'm way too busy for a heart attack, which, actually doesn't make sense. But that was the last bit. I had to fight a few off, like maybe a couple months later. I would come back. But that was just better breathing. So that was using the out that I was hired, yoga instructors and all this stuff. I had friends who were social support. Meaningful incentive was obvious. You just want to overcome it. And Big Dead was my product, 100%, because I knew that was going to be pretty stressful. And so it all worked out, but mostly because I was taking action every day. It was like, I know there's something wrong with me. I got to find a solution. And so I'm going to turn over every rock. And that's what I did.
Yeah, it's a really good point because a lot of people buy into that they are that way. Like this ailment, it's not they have an ailment, they are the ailment. And then they walk around like, I have this condition. I'm like, yeah, if you say so. I mean, or you can try to figure out like what you just did. There's got to be a way out of this. And
even with that, like I know I'm an introverted person and I can use that as an excuse to behave in certain ways in certain situations. But I've also decided that, being more sociable and being more, speaking and high energy, it's all a learnable skill. And so I love that phrase, learnable skill. So whatever you think of yourself, you're right. You're going to act like that. But if you say, listen, I might be like this, but I can be better than this, then you're going to go out there and like, listen, if I just say hi to one person, that's a win. That's my victory. And then the next time you come and you say hi to 2 people and away you go. And eventually you build up. And so anything, whatever you are, if you're a slow runner, you can become faster. If you're overweight, if you're big boned, you can become smaller boned. There's a way around everything, and everything is a learnable skill, and everything that, feels like a failure is just a result. It's like doing an experiment. This is a result. Okay. Next time I'm going to do it different.
From going to being an introvert to kind of more extrovert, and I know you don't replace one with the other, but just kind of that process. What have you seen in that process of your growth as a human being, a business person?
I think it's just been really helpful to bring energy. So, an introvert would go into a room and like try and slide up against the wall and just be really low energy. But, you can bring more energy to a conversation. And then, once you're in that conversation, just be a real intent listener. And then that way you'll build those relationships. It is possible to build relationships as an introvert online. It's fine. You can do that. But I mean, you can build so many more powerful relationships by being out there, by connecting with people, by caring. And you're going to learn so much more. You're going to learn a lot about, even selling, if you want to learn how people are going to respond to your persuasive messages. So it's just been a really good adventure. That's how I look at things now. Even when, another thing is that I like to say, oh, I hate going to the airport, but you can say that, and you can say, I hate TSA, I hate all this stuff, or you can say, we're going to the airport today. It's going to be an adventure. I don't know who I'm going to meet in line. I'm going to look at it that way. And for me, I'm a skeptical person. I always default to that negative approach to things, but I can just turn it around in my head and make a better day out of it.
Yeah. I don't know if it was in your book or maybe it was The Monk, but I read an interesting thing. Tell me if this was in your book, that 99% of the thoughts we have every single day are the same thoughts that we had the day before.
That's from the monk who sold his Ferrari, probably.
Yeah. So I just found that so fascinating. It's like, if you're in that world, it's kind of like what you were saying with the airport, right? It's so easy to say that because everyone says that. And yet that thought doesn't serve you in the least. And so the game is, those thoughts are always going to be there. How quickly can you kind of replace them and be like, okay, great, that was another thought, boom, and then replace them with something like that you said, which is positive. I'm curious if the thing from the introvert extrovert, did you see that the way that you kind of shifted your anxiety, it almost seems like you reverse engineered that process of there's nothing wrong with me. It's just this thing, and I can learn to be this other way. Did that help you in that process?
Yeah, I think it also, you said a great phrase there. It does not serve me to be this way. So if you want to accomplish X, Y, Z and you default to this, bad behavior, that does not serve you. So serve yourself by trying to do something else. And it's kind of, it's basically the George Costanza approach to life, the opposite, black, white, day is night, take that approach to doing things. Like when that thought pops in your head, go, wait a minute. Is that thought really true? What if I, try and live the opposite of that and give it a shot, see what happens, and just treat everything more as an adventure. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to experience more things. You're going to meet more people, and, your life is going to be better for it.
Yeah. And I would just add to that, give yourself 3 weeks, not just a day.
Right.
Because with the perfect day formula, it's your whole thing, which I think is smart, is wake up 15 minutes earlier, then 15 minutes earlier. Don't do what I did, which is 2.5 hours earlier.
Right.
Jet lag helped though, so I'm going to say that. But I do think when I started doing it, the first 2 weeks at 7 p.m., I was a train wreck. Brain just shut off. I didn't feel good. My wife's like, there's something wrong with you. And I just knew that my body had to readjust itself to this new rhythm. And so I would just say, for whatever people are trying, when you try that new thing, it will be uncomfortable and it will feel super weird, totally out of body. Don't do it just once. Give yourself that opportunity to kind of go through that initial, even in the gym, right? When you go to the gym, when you first start, the first 3 weeks are miserable. And then you're like, oh man, you might not see the impact, but you already start feeling better. And then that kind of gets you through that hump. So just wanted to add that. All right. So let me ask you the final question, which is the old cliche of, I wish I knew then what I know now. So you've had some crazy ups and downs in your journey so far, but what's
adventures, I call them.
What'd you say?
Adventures, I call them.
Adventures, exactly. Yeah. The whole life is an adventure. What's something that you wish you would have known, a decade or even 2 or whatever ago?
Oh, I just wish I would have gotten a coach earlier in life. I could have afforded one in 2003. I waited 3 years. I was too cheap. I was too stubborn. As soon as I got the coach, it was exponential results. It was why didn't I do this sooner? I'd be helping more people today. I'd have my book done years ago. You and I would have met probably years ago. Yep. And my social circle would be bigger and everything would be bigger and better if I had just taken action on something that everybody eventually does and everyone benefits from. So if you're thinking about, should I take the next step? Should I get a mentor? By all means, do so. Find somebody who's done what you want to achieve. connect with them, and away you go. I just wish I would have done it sooner. And I still hire coaches today. I mean, I had a coaching call yesterday with the new coach, and away I go. So I'm still getting it.
Could not agree more. The coaches might change because your mission changes, but it's definitely very important to have them. All right. So where can people get this? Where can people find out more about you?
Right. So if you want to get the full-blown kit, the awesome experience, it's like having me sitting at your kitchen table. Go watch the video I made about all the cool stuff that's in the box at perfectdayformula.com. Otherwise, grab the book at Amazon. Let me know what you think of it. Leave a review. And then you can hit me up on Twitter at twitter.com/Craig Ballantyne. And I have a couple of free gifts that people can grab at craigballantyne.com/free gift. My time journal, a sleeping formula for getting to bed a little bit earlier and having a better night's sleep so you wake up and dominate your days.
Yeah, I did want to add, because I just brought this down because I didn't have the box, but the box was actually really cool because a lot of the stuff that Craig talks about in the book, he gives you done for you, like journals and things to write. So like as you're going through your perfect day, you don't have to think. You just literally like open it, boom, 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 and you're done, which I thought was really clever. A lot of people just give you the how-tos. It makes life very, very easy. Craig, pleasure to have you on here. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And I'm sure our paths will cross very, very soon.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye. All right. So that puts a bow on this part of the interview, or my interview with Craig Ballantyne, I should say. If you want to reach out to him, again, all the details will either be below this video on YouTube, or you can head over to our resource page and grab that. And as a last reminder, if you'd like to come check out our live event, you can just head over to youwillhaveitall.com/live. You can see a bunch of the previous attendees, what they got out of it, what they have to say about it. And again, tickets are free. $297 deposit, save your seat, and you are good to go. Hope to see you, as many as you there. We're also hosting probably every Thursday as of now, a Have It All live webinar, free coaching, free mindset stuff. Again, just to give you an idea of what the live event is like, what our coaching programs are like. So if you're interested, you can always head over to youwillhaveitall.com/webinar and just register yourself for the next available one. All right. Hope you guys have an amazing week, and we'll talk real soon.